National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, presents a Bravo video event, the Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice.
And on today's show, Basic Estate Planning with attorney Lou Shuntich.
And now the host of the Business Insurance Zone, the whiz of the biz, insurance columnist Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, and of course we're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial professionals right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And with me today, and of course yesterday if you missed the show, Lou Shuntich from Lincoln Benefit Life, attorney at large. Welcome back again, Lou.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, Lou, we're talking about a basic estate planning, and we were all over it yesterday on basic docs. And I know I'm going to get email from yesterday's show simply because we want to be able to tell our advisors, you need to be doing the very things we're recommending to our clients. And these are big heads-up issues, and I don't think they're avoidable. Even if you say, well, I'm a small advisor, producer, I really don't make a lot of money. But listen, all the things we talked about yesterday are basic to being a citizen of the United States and planning for the transfer of your assets and having what you want done, the desires of your heart, whether medically or your assets or whatever you're going to do, those docs. And if you missed it, just hop back out on our website, www.brokersalliance.com. As soon as you come to the homepage, there'll be a red button there. It's the on demand. Hit it and look for Monday's show where Lou and I talk about these docs. I think you'll really enjoy it. Now, listen, I want to pick up from yesterday's show because one of the things I was sweating bullets over was this phrase, Irrevocable Life Insurance Trust. The word irrevocable sounded like it was concrete. In yesterday's show, Lou, you said, hey, there's a lot of flexibility here and it can be built into the trust. But you have to still have a product that is liquid to fit within the trust.
That's
so
right.
Talk a little bit about, and since you're on here with Lincoln Benefit, there's several carriers that do this, but let's talk about your carrier. They use an estate liquidity rider built on the second to die chassis. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. As I said before, there are two things you want for sure when you're planning. One is certainly a result, which comes from a death benefit guarantee, and then secondly, you want flexibility in the face of change. Now, we can draft the trust document to give the trustee the ability to push money out of the trust to the insured's family or directly to the insured by way of a loan. But that trustee has to be able to access that cash. Our liquidity riders are designed to have that happen on a user-friendly basis. For example, with our estate liquidity rider, it applies our second to die contract. In the 10th policy year, the contract owner, which in this case would be the trustee, can get the greater of the policy's value or 90% of the premiums paid. They wait till the 15th year of the contract, they can get the larger of the policy value or 100% of the premiums paid. So, this is something which should give people a greater degree of comfort.
Now, just make sure I understand this.
Yeah.
This is not current company practice. This is contractual. Is
Yes,
that
it
correct?
is. That's correct.
I think that's a big deal difference because there's a lot of carriers, and I don't want to get into the second to die grids and spreadsheets today, but there are a lot of carriers that do what you say. Estate liquidity riders, they have those embedded in their product line. However, many of them are current company practice. You're saying LBL's is contractually guaranteed. Well, a little bonus there for LBL there. Got a little plug. Okay.
One more thing too, and that is you can take that money out for any reason.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes companies will say because of divorce or a change in estate tax law, any reason at all, you can get that money out.
Well, liquidity is an issue. We want to try to be able to put our docs online to make sure our will and desires are being fulfilled in these docs, but things change. And we want to have the ability to pivot. We have to kind of move. I have to have some flexibility. And that's why I like when you described yesterday, again, check it out on the show. I think it's great. I think we freeze a lot of times because of the word irrevocable or irrevocable, depending upon your English. And I think we think, we're now in a straitjacket. But it's not true. We can build in and embed in the documents this kind of flexibility. And in tandem, you have to have a product line that actually has this flexibility. And in this case with Lincoln Benefit, we're talking about a contractually guaranteed estate liquidity rider.
That's correct.
Well, let's move on, Lou. We've been promising our people today, we had to do a little introduction. We want to get in today some of the ideas. We had to scale this down to Lou's top 15 uses of life insurance annuities. And let's walk through it in estate planning because everybody thinks, estate planning's $5 million and above unified credit, Lou. There's no reason for me to even go through this. But there are a ton of reasons to look at this. And one of the biggest ones, and I'll do it before I let Lou loose here, is remember, we still have state taxes. And many of these states do not dovetail to the federal numbers.
That's right.
So there's huge exposure at the state level at the transfer of death. So just a heads up, you may not have a federal issue, but you might have a state issue.
That's correct.
Okay. But with that being said, let's get into a few of these ideas, because there's a lot of great ideas within a basic estate planning to sell a majority of life insurance and some annuity ideas.
Right. I like to break this up into three parts. First, we talk about the lifetime needs of the insured themselves. Then we might get into talking about the person's business succession planning needs, assuming they've got a business, and there are many in this country who do. And finally, we can talk about our concerns regarding the premature death of the person.
Mm-hmm.
Here, not just what they have to do, but oftentimes the things they might like to do for their family.
Mm-hmm.
Taking first the idea of the individual's needs during their life, let's talk about the possibility of them wanting a safety net for themselves. We talk about safety nets in this country so
Mm-hmm.
much. I think that's a good idea. And we're being a situation where an individual wants to buy some product that would cover the mortgage, utility costs, food bills, and so forth. And to cover that, we might have them buy a non-qualified annuity, which would begin payment, a deferred annuity, at the time they retire.
Now, when we talk about this, Lou, I keep thinking, okay, we all know that, but why are you using that with estate planning?
Because I think you have to understand, estate planning is more than just talking about when someone dies and how their property goes. It's something which should be given to the person's life, should take into consideration their lifetime needs as well as those of their family.
So really, you're doing kind of a preventative before death, kind of a tributary of thought here. So I have a strategy that says, look, I need to have money. Maybe I guess I just had a flurry of thoughts here. Maybe if I didn't prep myself for my own income, that would actually accelerate my death because I wouldn't have any money.
Let me tell you a story. Get in an airplane, and before you take off, you always get a safety lecture.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell you if we lose cabin pressure, these little masks are going to fall down with oxygen. Who do they tell you to put the mask on first, even if a small child's with you? They say yourself.
Yourself,
Because
yeah.
you can't take care of anybody else until you're functioning yourself. So that's why I'm saying when we think about estate planning, we think about taking care of your family, we begin by taking care of the insured, or prospective insured, the breadwinner, to make sure they're okay. Then they can take care of their family too.
I love that metaphor, and ladies and gentlemen, that came from an attorney. I just want you to know, a little creativity there coming from the fiduciary. Well, we'll talk about it a little more. Now we're talking about he wants to put in a non-qualified deferred annuity to take care of himself, to have enough money guaranteed in a contract so that he has something all the way out to his death.
That's right.
Okay.
But we're just talking about a safety net now, the basics. Let's suppose that person has a business, which has a cash flow. And that, like so many business owners, they haven't really paid attention to taking care of their own retirement needs. They've been plowing money back in the business year after year, but they really haven't set up a good retirement plan for themselves. Secondly, let's assume they look at the situation and say, I don't want to adopt a qualified pension plan because I have to cover my employees. I just want to set something up for myself. They can do that in the form of a non-qualified deferred compensation plan, which is a contractual arrangement between them and their company, where the company promises to pay them a benefit in the future, such as retirement. And we typically fund this benefit by having the company buy a life insurance policy on the person, a cash value contract. Now, one caution. The company has to be applicant, owner, and beneficiary of the policy. We can't give any rights in the contract to our insured company
Now, if
owner.
it's deferred comp, is the company taking a deduction on that?
Well, they can't take a deduction until such time as you actually pay them the money down
Pay
the
the
road.
money out.
And the source of the money to pay the benefits will be the cash value of the policy.
Now, Lou, do
typically.
you see a lot of deferred comp? Because really, the non-qualified, non-ERISA out on the street right now is still 162 double bonus.
That's a simpler approach. I like that idea. And we can begin talking about that in regard to the person's business succession planning needs.
But are you saying there's an advantage from an estate planning point of view to do deferred comp?
I think when you think about deferred comp, you're talking about a longer-term kind of arrangement than a 162 plan. A 162 plan is the simplest, the easiest to set up and administer. A non-qualified deferred compensation plan is a bit more involved. So I think we have to decide, what are we trying to do here? If we're looking at a longer-term real retirement benefit, then I think non-qualified deferred comp. If we're looking for something more on the order of a golden handcuff to keep employees around that you want, 162 bonus, or sometimes called restricted bonus plan.
So, because it's so funny, we're talking about areas of retirement, but you're using it really as the setup for estate planning. I mean, that's kind of
What
strange.
it-
I never really saw that
Yeah.
as a legitimate estate planning area. I saw it as a retirement model, yes. But now we're talking about, this is kind of like your preamble, right, before your death.
Yeah, I think what you have to understand is so many things in life are interrelated. People talk about estate planning, talk about business succession planning. you have to talk about those two together. Either you're talking about, your estate planning, you need to sweep in your retirement planning as well. All these things are tied together, and you need to sit down and do a comprehensive plan, taking care of yourself and your family, while you're still alive.
I think that's one of our things. I mean, as an advisor, I've been in this thing 30 years. I do think that way. I partition things. Hey, this is, estate planning. This is retirement planning. This is defense planning using life insurance, PC, property casualty for your home and things like that. I do partition it, but you're right. It does they're integrated. They're homogenous in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Well, what's your next thing on the line? Because I know you have a great potpourri. We want to talk about it. We did just two now. One was with non-qualified annuities. And again, if you want our annuity spreadsheet, all you have to do is write us at the show, thebiz at brokersalliance.com, and we'll send you the annuity spreadsheet. Or you can go right out to our website, www.brokersalliance.com, and as soon as you come on there, you can go to the annuity section and pull the grids and the spreadsheets right down. And if you're looking for things like deferred comp, again, we have a whole platform on this. On deferred comp, you can go ahead and order. You say, gee, I kind of like his idea. I'm a business owner, and I'd like to be able to look at the basics of doing deferred comp, and we have that for you. Just go ahead and write us, again, thebiz at brokersalliance.com.
Yeah. Next thing, I think we should consider the fact that so many people in this country are business owners, and these baby boomers, which are about 75 million, comprise the majority of business owners in the country. We find that studies show 2/3 of these people have done nothing in the way of really succession planning, not even a buy and sell agreement. So I think it's important to look at that as a potential market. And when you're talking about business succession planning, I don't care which exit strategy you ultimately use, and we can talk about some of those. There are at least 6 preliminary life insurance considerations that should be addressed. And these are preliminary considerations before you get to an issue of what exit strategy will I use. And I think the first one is to look at your key employees. I mean, what happens to the saleability and value of a business if a key person dies? Obviously, it goes down. When business owners go out and they buy insurance on the building, they buy insurance on the vehicles, they buy product liability insurance, but do they take the time to insure the most important asset, which can be the key employees? And that's not just talk, okay? I saw a case recently where there was a person who was bringing in 40% of the company's revenue. The business owner found that out. He immediately bought a key person policy in the individual. He couldn't take a 40% hit in loss of revenue. So the purpose of the insurance now is to protect the company if this key person dies during this transition period we're looking to get out of.
I like this because, when you think about a key person, this could affect my estate. If he leaves, he dies, and I have no coverage on this. I do want to go out of my way right now and say, listen, we're always targeting makers in the business. I want to find out who's bringing in the revenue, and I want to make sure I cover this off. His loss, I need to indemnify in case something goes down in a bad way, because he has a major portion of the company's revenue. I'd be targeting rainmakers in every business just on the key issue alone, and now we're even dragging that into estate planning. Well, you're listening to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. You can write me at thebiz at brokersalliance.com or just call us toll free 1-800-290-7226 extension 147. Lou and I will be right back after the break. What you hear from Brokers Alliance, the premier provider of insurance products in the United States.
Whether you're a professional planner pursuing a strategic partner or an insurance distributor seeking a national alliance, your business just went into overdrive. Now enter the largest resource of insurance products and services with unparalleled access to a worldwide audience of consumers through the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, who can take your company and launch it into the stratosphere of success. With countermeasures, the most comprehensive carrier intel in the industry, the MASH unit with field triage underwriting and the premium tolerance test, the life insurance financial evaluation, the most rigorous policy review, and Bravo high-definition broadcasting with online social media. Your search just ended.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, insurance columnist, financial color commentator, and interviewer extraordinaire. Remember, before moving forward with anything on this show, especially now, we're talking about strategies, don't forget to check in with your CPA, your tax attorney, and if you're FINRA licensed, your broker-dealer compliance department. Remember, you can call me on any questions or quotes on life insurance, DI, annuities, LTC, or group pension plans. It's not what I know, it's who I know, and that's why I have Lou on. Lou Shuntage from Lincoln Benefit Life, attorney at large. We're talking about estate planning, although I have to say, after that first segment, I don't know if I'm talking about estate planning. I thought I was in the retirement module for a moment. But this all is preamble to this. And when we're talking about estate planning, and we have to bring up issues like deferred comp business owners, because a lot of times these small businesses, this is the bulk of their estate.
Exactly.
And so there's a lot of issues there. We were just getting into, we're doing the deferred comp issue, which I'm still trying to wrap my heads around as an estate issue. But now you wanted to talk a little bit about another idea.
Yes. We were discussing in the prior broadcast about key person insurance and how important that is to protect the business from loss of a key person, because the death of a key person is going to affect the value and the sellability of the business. But I want to talk about product for a minute there. When people think of key person insurance, they most often gravitate to using term. So if Joe's 55 years old and he's going to work till he's 65, we'll get a 10-year term policy on Joe. That works. One thing to be sure, look and make certain that whatever contract you get, even a term contract, be sure that it's got a accelerated death benefit rider. Why? Because if a person gets sick, even in a terminal state, they can last for months or even years. With medical science being the way it is, business can't wait that long. The business needs the money now, and with an accelerated death benefit rider, they can get it. Also, don't just think about term insurance. Also think about cash value coverage. For example, if you've got a term policy and Joe works for us until he's 65 years old, and then he retires, what do we do with a term contract? If instead you bought a cash value policy like a universal life, the company's got four choices that term insurance don't provide. If Joe's been a really good employee, we could just give him the contract as a supplemental retirement benefit and use the cash value or for family protection. Secondly, let's suppose that Joe needs insurance for his family, but he's acquired a medical problem since the time he was insured. So he can't afford the coverage he wants. We could sell him the contract for its cash value. That's a good deal for Joe.
You know, you're just bringing up something a couple of weeks back, and this is a little off point, but kind of with this point. I would think the same way in my old days of thinking, I have a 55-year-old to 65, I'm just going to cover the 10-year, be done with it. If he dies, I'm covered. If he's not, he'll be retired. I don't need to worry about it.
Sure.
But I've noticed that more and more people, we earn the bulk of our money. Independent market organizations like us, we don't really make our money on term. We make our money on geriatrics who bought term and did not convert and now need a permanent policy. And after our show a couple weeks ago, we did a show on final expense, which opened my eyes even the further. I have seen nobody debate the issue of final expense and funeral costs. Those issues are into perpetuity. So when I'm looking in my mind on whether it's term or permanent liability, is it a terminal liability or permanent? There are some things that are actually going to be permanent for the rest of our life, and we should start thinking that some portion of whatever we do to indemnify ourselves needs to be into perpetuity. So I need a permanent product to play there.
Right.
And after that final expense show, which kind of opened my eyes, I'm kind of like, well, maybe I don't want to do that 10-year lockdown. Hey, it's easy. We all know that. So now you're bringing up even additional reasons of consideration why I want to be able to do something more permanent.
Sure. Two more possibilities. Beside giving the policy to Joe or selling it to him, the company could surrender the contract. It's got a liquidity rider attached to it that facilitates it. Or finally, just keep the contract in force until Joe dies and get back all its money plus.
So they could get, is it a built-in return of premium rider then, Lou? Or is it just, how are they getting it?
It's a part of the contract. It's guaranteed.
So let's say I'm willing to gift that to my employee. Hey, he's leaving, and I bought a permanent contract. I'm using that part of his severance bonus. Could I incorporate that into his exit strategy from the firm?
Well, sure you could. I mean, I would say that this is a situation we've not promised him the contract in the first place. As far as he knows, this is just...
That was to cover the business.
Right. But we arrive at retirement date. We like this guy. He's been a good employee of ours. We're willing to do something extra for him. We can work that into the package we want to give him.
Now, when he takes that, will he have to pay any taxes on that? Because he wasn't,
Yes.
We owned it, now he's going to own it.
Right. It's a transfer of property under Section 83 of the code. He'll be taxable at that time on the interpreted term reserve value of the contract, or possibly there's something called a PERC test for determining value. But anyway, just realize there'll be a taxable event when he receives the policy.
But compared to paying the premium all that time,
That's right.
it's a huge discount.
Right. And if the company really wants to be generous, they might even bonus them some extra
Bonus
cash
them out, sure.
to cover the tax.
Okay, what's next on your list? Because now, again, remember, this is Tuesday on our show, and I'm kind of having a little freak out session here because I thought we were talking about estate planning, and it sounds like we're talking about retirement modeling, but you say no, this is all part and parcel of that.
I've been in situations where you go in to see someone to talk about their business succession planning and start asking questions about estate planning, and they actually said back, oh, no, I've done my estate planning. When you continue with a few more questions, you watch the blood drain on them as they realize they haven't really done that. They're all closely related, okay? The next thing I want to talk about is the fact that if you're going to be exiting a business, not only are you concerned about the possibility of a key person dying, but also what about a key person leaving? If your employees find out that you're going to sell this business or transfer to somebody else, do you think they're just going to sit there and wait to lose their jobs? If they realize there's a change in ownership, I could lose my job. So they begin looking around for another job. Had a case in the Washington, D.C. area of a contractor, a government contractor, very successful. He wanted to get out of the business within 3 years. He realized if his 3 construction bosses found out that he was going to sell the business, they would leave. So we had to find something that would keep them around. The simplest approach was a restricted bonus arrangement. And all it comes down to is he told his employees, look, I want you to go out and buy an insurance policy. You're going to own it. I'm going to pay the premiums on it. I want you to stick around for 3 years, and for the next 3 years, I'll pay the premiums. But you must agree in writing that you won't touch that cash value for those 3 years. And secondly, if you leave me before the 3 years is up, you're going to pay me back.
Now, is this an agreement that is completely written for that issue, not a cash value restrictive endorsement?
No, I wouldn't.
Totally different, isn't
No, people have been doing endorsements which show the business has an interest in the policy, okay? I would stay away from that because that raises the question of whether or not the business is a beneficiary of the policy, and that's a term very broadly defined under section, I think, 264 of the code. Here, we want to have a separate written agreement, nothing on the endorsement of the policy.
Now, that's interesting because now I might want to say, Lou, if I have, I'm just thinking, just off the top of my head now, right off the show, 162 double bonus, cash value restrictive endorsement, employee agreement. That's pretty standard on a lot of carriers. So if I have if I may want to review that then, if I'm hearing you correctly,
Right.
if you have if I'm hearing correctly, a cash value restrictive endorsement. If you haven't done any of these contracts, and a lot of people on the 162 bonus have went this way, and you want to look at this again, we may want to look at this completely because this may not be in the best interest of the business.
Yeah, the reason is that if the company appears on the ownership endorsement having rights, then possibly the service might say the company is a beneficiary of the contract. If that's the case, under section 264 of the code, they can't take a tax deduction when they pay the premiums, either to the employee or to the insurance company. And they're going to delay that deduction until such time as the employee takes complete ownership of the contract without that endorsement restriction.
If you want us to review this again, just go ahead. We'll make sure that all, we have several great advanced teams in our huge inventory of carriers. We'll review this for you. We'll be happy to do so. We won't be reviewing it, of course. We'll have attorneys reviewing this. And you can call us 1-800-290-7226, extension 147, or write us on the show's address, thebiz at brokersalliance.com.
Next point I want to talk about is estate equalization. I had a situation, my former consulting partner and I were doing a presentation to the North Tampa Chamber of Commerce, and in the audience, as we were taking turns speaking, there was a couple staring into space. And I said to myself, something's going on here. Well, after we finished the presentation, I approached them. As it turns out, they were staring into space because they were concerned that her parents who had started the business were in the mid-60s. This business employed 18 members of the family, and they knew that someday the parents would pass on. I mean, let's face it, business owners are going to do one of three things. They're going to die, they're going to retire, they're going to get disabled. What happens then? And this couple was concerned that once the parents were out of the picture, her brother would step in. And he had a lot of problems, personal problems. He was not the person around the business. He would destroy the business and the jobs of 18 family members, okay? I typically describe these people, and I've seen a number of them, as being those who are frequently wrong but never in doubt. And as a consequence, they'll destroy the business. So the solution was for the parents to have a buy and sell agreement with the daughter, guaranteeing that when they were out of the picture, she would take it over. She was capable and competent. So what do you do about the son? The answer was for the parents to buy a life insurance policy, making the son a beneficiary. That way, if the daughter got the business, he got a chunk of cash to take care of him. Equalization.
Well, I like equalization. I've seen time and time again where A business is has a large portion of the estate.
Right.
One of the siblings is heavily involved in the business and really is the heir apparent. But I have another person in the family and they want to be able to pass on to the kids equal estate. And this, by the way, in estate planning, I have found this is a major maternal attribute to make everything go equally. So this is a good way of equalizing the estate without giving the business to everybody equally, and the guy, the one sibling who's been in there all his life, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's an issue. If you want any information on our buy-sell, cross-purchase, wait and see, we'll get into that maybe tomorrow. Wait and see trust, stock redemption. We have this for you. All you have to do is order it, thebiz at brokersalliance.com, or you can call us 1-800-290-7226, extension 147. We'll send you these ideas, and some of these are on really good graphs, very pictorial. They really lay it out for you. I really like the idea of being able to look at equalization as kind of like bringing everybody in, instead of having a fight and a civil war within the family, especially closely held family businesses like this. I can now come with a resolution and an actual great solution of bringing equalization through life insurance, and maybe we'll talk about the ownership issues on all that tomorrow. Listen, this show and yesterday's show and all this week you can watch on HD 1080p right on our homepage, right at www.brokersalliance.com. Just hit our on-demand button, and of course on all our social networks on Vimeo, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course Facebook. I'm Steve Savant. You've been listening to the Business Insurance Zone. That's the buzz on the biz for today. Get in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone.
This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. Need insurance guidance? Call Brokers Alliance. The Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice.